covering sports for 30 years. It's one thing for an exhibition here, there, whatever, but you can't continue to be allowed to build a career without getting into the ring with fighters. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon.
But does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right, and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway.
Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the UK.
Stephen A. Smith reacts strongly to the announcement, saying that Jake Paul has never treated boxing with the seriousness it deserves. He claims Jake's career has mostly been about exhibition fights and opponents who were never real challenges, often retired fighters or athletes well past their prime. Smith adds that this pattern is disrespectful to the sport, and that matching Jake Paul with Anthony Joshua shows just how poorly boxing is being handled.
Can't continue to get away with stepping into the ring against strikers for the UFC, basketball players, unknown boxers.
Simon Jordan raises serious concerns about the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight, saying it exposes many problems in modern boxing. He argues that business and money now matter more than the true spirit of the sport, with fighters and promoters chasing publicity and big paydays instead of real competition. Jordan warns that when boxing turns into a show instead of a test of skill, it loses the respect it has built over many years. He says matchups like this, even though they make a lot of money, can create dangerous standards for young fighters and damage how people view the sport. He adds that this fight is another example of money being valued more than athletic challenge. According to Jordan, the event is driven by headlines, social media attention, and ticket sales, not real sporting merit. He believes using a star like Anthony Joshua to raise the profile of someone who hasn't faced strong opponents hurts the credibility of professional boxing. Jordan argues that turning a world-class athlete into a tool for a commercial event takes away from the achievements of those who have dedicated their lives to the sport.
This, to me, is everything that's wrong with boxing. It's a money play, nothing wrong. I don't begrudge Anthony Joshua getting 50 million quid for an easy night's work. That's fantastic returns. Most people would take it. But from the boxing world, Jake Paul is now a professional fighter. Whether we categorise him as a YouTuber or not, he's licensed to fight, which means that the governing body should be suggesting that this is not a fight that possibly they should be looking to sanction.
Yeah.
But they will, because the sanctioning fees will be enormous. Anthony Joshua will not lose his legacy like some people are suggesting, because no one will remember it in 2 or 3 years' time. If he embarrasses himself in there, they'll remember it. If he goes in and knocks him out in 30 seconds flat, or turns it into a little bit more of a sort of Jake LaMotta raging bull, holding him up for a few rounds and then knocking him out, then people will forgive it. He'll get a big bag of money, which most people in the world would take, and move on. And then we'll see if he fights anybody meaningful in the year. I mean, it is like sport has become. And what I got my head around on Saturday night was the entertainment value of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. The fighting of itself, I could be all pious about it, but the entertainment industry is so prevalent in sport now. This is entertainment. This is going to have hundreds of millions of people watching it. Of course. And Anthony Joshua gets paid, and Jake Paul hopefully gets flattened.
Simon, I know the money's there, but does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right, and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway. But I think it does get damaged.
Even if it's an exhibition fight, which it might well be.
Well, then what's the jeopardy in that? If it's an exhibition fight, which it shouldn't be, if it's a proper fight, then Jake Paul is going to get demolished.
Johnny Nelson shares his thoughts, calling the matchup completely crazy and genuinely dangerous. He explains that this isn't a normal crossover fight. This is a real matchup with serious stakes and real physical risk. Nelson respects Jake Paul's courage, questions whether it's smart for him to step into the ring with a proven heavyweight champion. He says the shock comes from how serious this fight actually is. It's not an exhibition, and one mistake could have real consequences. His reaction reflects the mix of curiosity, excitement, and concern that many people in the boxing world feel. Nelson goes on to talk about Jake Paul as a unique competitor. While Jake has shown skill and confidence in his previous fights, Nelson points out that none of his past opponents were anywhere near Anthony Joshua's level. He sees Jake's bravery as impressive but also worrying, because facing a world-class heavyweight carries real danger.
Because of Anthony Joshua's desire to be in the history books, to be a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. To me, it shows me his desire. Pick up 50 million along the way. Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the UK. Would he win a British title? No, I don't think so. So now they're putting this domestic level fighter in with a former heavyweight 2-time champion of the world. The weight is 245. So I think last time Anthony Joshua weighed around that, it was when he boxed Usyk. That means he's got to be fight fit on point, because his last fight he was 18 stone. I think it was 254 against Danny Dubois. So now he basically saying you've got to get yourself in position, get yourself fit, and get yourself ready for fight. It's not tiddlywinks. This is a fight. It's not a push and a pull, you know. So as long as it's not a push and a pull, and don't put me down and don't touch me in the build up to this fight. You know, I remember when McGregor and Mayweather, they had this little side deal, don't touch me in the build up to this. If this is a real legitimate fight, Jake Paul is absolutely crazy. If not crazy, he's super brave, and it'll be interesting to see.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, because you said that before when we spoke about it being a proper fight or not. And Eddie Hearn and Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarin, have both said in the last couple of days it will be a proper fight. And now you've heard the details, 8 rounds, 3 minutes around, 10-ounce gloves. Do you believe it when they say that it's going to be a proper fight?
I do believe it because AJ is involved, and I think AJ would struggle to. He's going to take enough flack over this, but again, it's money talk. So I think AJ will struggle because it's an Owen situation. If he goes in there, Jake Paul lasts the distance. What's he tell you about AJ? Apart from he's just earned an extra 15 million quid. If he goes there and struggles with Jake Paul, then what's he say about AJ? Your heydays are well and truly over. If he goes in there and knocks him out, then I'll say that's to be expected. So the glory, there's probably not much glory in it, apart from the haters of Jake Paul to say, right, I've got rid of this kid. I think it's very brave of Jake Paul. So now the problem child has got to believe this fight's actually happening. So
Tony Jeff offers a practical perspective, saying that in boxing, anything can happen. He explains that training, preparation, and the right mindset can sometimes balance things out, even when there's a big difference in age or experience. Jeff notes that Jake is younger than Joshua, which could help him with stamina and recovery. He admits that Jake is not yet on Joshua's technical level. Jeff recognizes that Jake has improved a lot, and with the right strategy and focus, surprising results are always possible because boxing is unpredictable. Jeff also highlights Jake Paul's strong work ethic, saying Jake has shown real dedication while preparing for tougher opponents. Although Jake's skills don't match Joshua's, Jeff stresses that his commitment to training and learning deserves credit. He suggests that the gap between the two fighters might be smaller than many critics believe. According to Jeff, discipline, preparation, and mental focus can help reduce physical disadvantages. His view adds balance to the discussion, acknowledging Jake's progress while still being realistic about the huge challenge ahead of him.
Prime, where Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, is, but I'm not going to say he's coming into his prime because he had some great wins earlier on in his career before he lost to Usyk twice. And by the way, when he did lose to Usyk, the last one was a split decision. It was a pretty close fight. So now this fight is matched, and I just want to look at the tail of the tape. Now looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old, but that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else, what comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. Now, come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pound versus 252 pound. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ's had 43, but 43 of them are including at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Now, then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights, and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules? The bout will take place at a heavyweight, obviously. It's going to be 8 3-minute rounds. You might think, well, that's better for Jake Paul.
Chael Sonnen says that Jake Paul's critics the level of competition he faces when he steps into the ring with a real professional boxer. Sonnen believes this fight will reveal whether Jake's past success came from carefully selected opponents or if he genuinely belongs in high-level boxing. He says this matchup will act as a reality check, giving fans, analysts, and the boxing world a clearer picture of where Jake truly stands. Sonnen describes the fight as a key moment for judging the legitimacy of Jake Paul's career and understanding the impact of crossover boxing on the sport. Sonnen adds that this fight is a major test not just for Jake, but for how the public views boxing itself. Facing a world-class heavyweight will put Jake under serious scrutiny from experienced fighters and analysts. The attention will show whether Jake's earlier wins were the result of real skill or simply weaker opponents. Sonnen believes this level of scrutiny is good for the sport because it reinforces proper standards for anyone claiming to be a professional boxer. It ensures the debates around Jake Paul are based on real performance, not just hype and marketing.
That it takes for Jake Paul to do this as well as for Joshua. You know, this isn't Joshua's first time doing a spoof fight. He fought Francis. That was a spoof fight. Francis had never won boxing before, but we understood he has fought before. It was one of those things where when you got through it, like coming into the front side, I'm sure Anthony Joshua trained plenty hard for it. But coming out the back, he probably realized I didn't need to train for that at all. That was fun. That was a good time. I got to hear him call my names. I got to go out there. I got to be light on my feet. I got to lay on these combinations and then cut an interview and pump my hands over my shoulders like I accomplished something. What dreams are made of. And so Joshua did one of those fights. It was with Francis, and this is a completely different kind of that type of fight, but it's still that fight nonetheless. Jake Paul has abilities to win this fight. A lot of them involved moral victories. A lot of them involved getting out of the first round. And a lot of them would involve getting out of the first 2 rounds and haven't been knocked down yet. One would be getting out of the 3rd round. You've only been on the canvas once and you got up to your feet, you shook it off, and you're ready to keep going. Like, these things are all victories, but the fight that it's going to happen, I think it's a big deal for Jake Paul. I think it's a big deal for everybody involved. I think it's a big deal that Francis looks at that fight and realizes, oh, these things make sense. These things that make dollars, they make sense. That's his business. This was his opportunity that he missed out on. And now Joshua's going to have a lot of fun. And overall, I see the fight being one-sided. And people keep saying, well, slow down. Wait till you hear what all of the rules under exhibition clause mean. As long as they're throwing punches at one another.
Dan Rafael focuses on Jake Paul's recent improvements, noting that Jake has grown as a fighter since his match with Tommy Fury. He says Jake now shows better technique, stamina, and tactical awareness. But Rafael also makes it clear that, despite this progress, Jake is still far below Anthony Joshua's elite level. He explains that the difference between a developing boxer and a seasoned heavyweight champion is huge, and fans should keep their expectations realistic. Rafael's view gives credit to Jake's hard work while also reminding people how difficult the upcoming challenge truly is, and how much more Jake needs to learn to reach world-class skill. Rafael adds that this fight will reveal both Jake's strengths and weaknesses. He says that although Jake has improved, you cannot fully prepare for top-tier heavyweights through training alone. The fight will test his physical ability, decision-making under pressure, timing, and adaptability. Rafael reminds everyone that boxing isn't just about being athletic, it's about strategy, mental toughness, and precise execution. These are qualities Joshua has spent years mastering, while Jake is still developing them.
In his most recent 2 fights, those are so-called real fighters, but not for a long, long time. Chavez is a decade or so past when he was best. And Tyson had been retired 19 years and hadn't been, even when he was still an active fighter, hadn't been at his best over the last decade of his career. So they were guys with big names, but not threats. And the other fighters that he's faced have been a collection of either non-combat athletes, MMA fighters who've decided to come into boxing or had very limited experience in boxing. And then, a couple of guys in boxing that didn't have a lot of experience who were boxers, but had been off, for a long time. Couple of guys you never heard of before he fought those guys, and those guys you'll never hear of again. Of course, the fight against Tommy Fury, which I know he lost, but it was like a split decision, as my recollection says, and it was awfully close. And for my perspective is, whatever you think about it, Jake Paul certainly has gotten better since he fought Tommy Fury. He's certainly gotten better over the last number of fights. Now, is he at an elite world-class level? Probably not yet. He may never get to that level, but so you got to give him props. He's taken on a guy that I spend part of my morning talking to different boxing matchmakers, people I've known for decades in this business, who have vast experience of building fighters and moving fighters and developing them. And they know a lot better than you or me what they're looking at. And to a person, they were like, they don't understand why Jake took this fight because they think it's, one person used the word of decapitation. So he's going to be a monstrous underdog against a massive puncher. But they're all getting paid.
Carl Frank gives his view on the stakes in this matchup, saying it's an important moment for both fighters. He explains that Anthony Joshua is at a stage in his career where even one mistake could bring heavy criticism. On the other hand, Jake Paul's growing reputation depends on proving he can face real professional challenges. Rock says this fight is a crossroads for both men, a test of Joshua's consistency and a chance for Paul to show he truly belongs in the sport. His perspective highlights how risk, reward, and reputation all collide in modern boxing, making this matchup meaningful for everyone involved.
Fake Paul is not a step in the direction of becoming world champion again. There's many people who could box. He's not going to make that kind of money. So let's just be honest with anybody else. So let's just be straight up honest about it. He's doing it all for the money. It's all about the money. I did say a year ago when he got splattered by Daniel Dubois that he's finished in boxing, he needs to retire. That's just my opinion. That's just my truth. I think he's done in heavyweight boxing at an elite competitive level. So that makes sense. I've been vindicated. He's now fighting Fake Paul in what will be a massive mismatch. If this is correct and it's 10-ounce gloves in a professional boxing rules, 8 3-minute rounds, it's not going to go 2 rounds, is it? It shouldn't do. It shouldn't last a round. But we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? It's hard to get your head around. It's hard to know what to say about this. AJ's obviously excited about it, about making some serious bunts. And Jake Paul's telling us that he's going to shut all the haters up by jumping in there with AJ. So what is actually going off? We're not going to know, are we, until the fight actually, till the first bell goes, we're not going to know what's actually behind all this. And we can't start throwing accusations of any sort of skullduggery going off because we've got to take it at face value. It's not an exhibition, so nothing's pre-scripted. This is a professional boxing match that you can make bets on. So it's got to be a real fight. And if AJ goes in there with them little 10-ounce gloves on and throws the Ngannou 1-2 down the middle, I'm talking about the one that rendered Ngannou unconscious and almost snapped his leg. And Ngannou's a decent fighter in the cage. He's a good MMA fighter. And you saw him, he took Tyson Fury, what did he take him, 8, 9, was it 10 rounds? Can't remember how long it was, but he took him the distance and lost a close decision. So he's quite capable. But AJ's a big punching heavyweight. And Fake
Ariel Helvani adds that worries about Joshua damaging his legacy are misplaced. He argues that taking a fight of this size is a normal business decision for a professional athlete, and it doesn't reflect badly on Joshua. Helvani explains that big paydays and high visibility are real parts of boxing, and a well-planned fight can support both commercial success and sporting value. He says that taking high-profile matches, even against unusual or highly popular opponents, is a normal part of modern boxing and reflects the balance between sport and business, not a threat to Joshua's legacy. Helvani also explains that Joshua's choice to take this fight shows good judgment and flexibility. He says that facing a highly publicized opponent doesn't take away from Joshua's achievements. Instead, it gives him a chance to use his talent while connecting with an even larger audience. Helvani emphasizes that what truly matters is how Joshua performs in the ring, not just who he's fighting.